interviewed on network television doing this kind of thing. They're all, barking away.
Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
Hey, I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm happy. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, we've got a lot of articles to cover today. I wanted to start out with something about green energy. And this is something, people all the time are pointing out that, wind isn't always blowing and the sun isn't always shining. What are you going to do, the rest of the time? Well, Nevada just replaced another coal power plant with a big battery energy storage site. And so what's happening here is these energy sites, they take in energy from wind and solar and other sources. It could be hydroelectric, could be nuclear, it could be coal, and it could be, natural gas too. But it's taking energy in, and it stores it, and it uses it where necessary. But it's mostly taking in renewables.
Right.
And so this was put in by Swiss-US battery energy storage specialist Energy Vault, which trades on the New York Stock Exchange as NRGV. And this is a 220 megawatt or 440 megawatt hour grid-tied Reed Gardner battery energy storage system in Moapa, Nevada. I wonder who that Reed person is. Anyways, 50 miles northeast of Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Energy Vault will maintain the system. So it's on the site of the former 557 megawatt coal-fired Reed Gardner generating station, which was demolished in 2019. Well, that's a good reuse for it.
Yeah.
It's a 2-hour energy storage system that stores and dispatches excess wind and solar power. It's charged and discharged daily and dispatches stored renewable energy at peak consumption hours to meet demand. The hours that NV Energy really got concerned about are from 5 to 9 p.m. because what happens at that point is the solar energy has really started to ramp off as the sun's going down. So we've had to go out to the market, the energy market, and buy energy to meet the needs between 5 and 9. Over the last couple of years, we paid $250 a unit of energy during those hours. And for this, we can deliver energy for closer to $100 an hour per unit of energy. I'm not 100%, but I think after 11 o'clock p.m., I think you can charge up an EV for free in Nevada. I think it's the one state that does offer something like that. And I don't know how you know that it's the EV, taking the juice, but I know there's some big benefit to doing, or it's just simply ridiculously cheap at night.
Yeah.
So the Inflation Reduction Act covered 40% of the project's $250 million cost. Wow, that's going to be $100 million. The utilities customers will see a 15 to 20% reduction in their bills by the end of 24. You can hate green energy all you want, but when you start getting an electric bill that's gone down 15 to 20%, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I posted an article where they were complaining about California's energy bills going up, and I'm pretty sure they're probably blaming it on the fact that, they're using so much solar, which they can't use. I mean, the issue there is that California now is generating more renewables than it actually needs, at certain times during the day. So then this is where, something like that would be enormously valuable to have that and capture all that energy and then use it at night. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, it's kind of fascinating to see that. I remember I was doing some help trying to find Bitcoin miners places to locate and where there was excess energy and infrastructure to put in mining operations.
Yep.
And it was always there was a couple of things. Hydroelectric is the cheapest, but there's always also this thing called gas flare-offs that the oil producers have. That's a big one they use too, because it's another spot where the energy was just being wasted. And then, but the other thing is these solar farms and wind, it really helps to have that. I mean, we're so reliant on it here in Nebraska, and we have cheap energy here. But anyways, it's just good to see Nevada doing that. And I don't think people really realize that's like you could store that stuff, and eventually the cars will store it too.
Yeah, is there any mention of whose battery technology they're using there? Are those all Teslas, or are they some other manufacturer?
I think it's they didn't get into the manufacturing of the batteries, but I suspect that company being traded on the New York Stock Exchange, maybe they have their own battery manufacturing somewhere. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Good.
But it didn't get into that in the article. And I got another quick one. And you had mentioned something similar about this not long ago. This one is about California. And California has the highest adoption rates of EVs in the US. But California has one fast charging station for every 5 gas stations now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's home to about 500,000 home charging stations as well. And so that's a pretty big deal. EVs made up less than 10% of new car sales last year. Wasn't it like 7.9 or something like that in 23 for the United States?
Yeah.
But 25% of new cars sold in 23 in California, 25% were ZEVs, zero emission vehicles, which is kind of a misnomer. We know that zero emission isn't completely accurate. Once they're built, they're zero emission. But before, I hear the arguments about it. But anyways, this also includes.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you go back a little bit into history there, they ended up having a category called PZEV, which was a gasoline engine with supposedly cleaner, exhaust than a non-PZEV. So you still see, these PZEV cars coming around. So it was a reflection of California saying we can't have any tailpipe emissions, right? So that's the ZEV part. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say this also included leased hydrogen powered cars. Mm-hmm. And more than a third of all new EVs sold in the US were in the state. Now, Gavin Newsom had something to say, or here he was shown on Twitter talking about this, but California claims if it were its own country, it would rank 4th in the world for EV sales. Newsom used April's development of the charging station count to show off a Ford Mustang Mach-E at a Tesla supercharging station, highlighting the automakers have agreed to adopt the NACS charging standard on their vehicles. So far, only Ford and Rivian have publicly unlocked their vehicles and started shipping adapters for their EVs, while others haven't reached that step yet. However, California includes the superchargers in its charging station count. Well, that'd be good because, Tesla is headquartered there in California, at least for now.
Well, technically, are they? Because Elon moved everything, moved it down to Austin, I believe. Yeah.
I'm not sure what's moved.
SpaceX is there, and the Gigafactory is there, and probably I would assume car design and things like that are still there. So
let's see. Here's a funny quote. Newsom said 10,000 level 3 charging stations. He didn't say 10,000 working charging stations.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not his fault if a lot of them don't work. That's not on the state of California. But we looked at those stats a while back, and what was it? If it wasn't a Tesla charger, 20% of them have problems. When you go to charge, and so whereas Tesla has something like 98% uptime. And it's a big difference. So I wanted to get into this. Our friend Alex. Go ahead.
Okay, but do we want to talk briefly about Elon firing the 500 staff members in the supercharger unit?
Oh, sure.
That obviously is going to be reflected here. So,
that's fine. We can discuss that. Well, I'm sure he has some reasoning. I think we were all surprised when he let 80% of the staff at Twitter go when he took over. Okay. He's been running Tesla forever, but it seems like from what he said on X that he wants to only focus on upgrading current charging stations as opposed to locating new ones.
Yeah.
But my understanding is he got rid of the head of that division too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that did seem rather sudden, and people took that
Well,
news weird.
yeah, there's a couple of company CEOs in the space who one guy put it, he says, we woke up all of us woke up this morning and we got a strong kick in the pants
Yeah.
from that, because nobody was prepared to see that happen. And the interesting thing is that the federal government, I mean, Tesla just received, I think it was $17 million from the federal program to, expand and improve their charging infrastructure. So, what's happening there? And of course, then the question the guys over at Ford and GM are asking is, how does this affect us, since we all decided we're going to go to your standard? And apparently they're saying it's not going to affect it at all. We're still going through with it.
Yeah, Musk said on their plans to expand the supercharger network, it's just a slower pace for new locations and more focus on 100% uptime and expansion of existing locations. But they have a pretty good network as it is. Now, they have places in some parts of California where they're all full on a regular basis. So they need to expand those.
Yeah, back east when they had the solar eclipse in the Northeast, and all those people after the solar eclipse passed, they all wanted to drive back home, and all the Tesla owners suddenly found they were waiting hours in line.
Oh God!
To get their cars recharged. So, yeah, there are areas of the country where I'm sure they could use more stations. I'd like to see a few more around here, but you've got most of the people around here have some kind of home charging to help them out. So,
yeah, other industry executives say Musk could simply have disbanded the existing organization to build a leaner and less expensive team to run the operations. It's interesting. I mean, he had just laid off 14,000 workers. Mm-hmm. And so I guess 100 doesn't seem like quite such a big number. I'm not sure, what would be the right Stalin quote for this.
Yeah, and supposedly in the supercharging team, there were something like 500 people, as well as the person running it that got their pink slips. So, or did they even get that? I don't,
No,
the firing of
the firing of 100 supercharger employees is a tragedy, while the 14,000 was merely a statistic.
No, 500. 500, not 100.
Oh, was it 500 in the supercharger? Oh, okay.
500, yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that many. I thought it was only 100. Yeah. So that's quite a quite a change.
But as we pointed out, as you were saying, probably a lot of those people, their job was simply to locate, locations, and then probably put out contracts and bids and things for local electricians and the guys digging the holes and that kind of thing. So that may account for for a lot of that, since they're big enough. They don't need to grow anymore. Let's focus on just the quality and making sure we're not just 98%, we're 99.999% up. So that makes sense, particularly if you've got GM cars and Rivian cars and Ford and Rivian right now, but later GM and so on. Yeah.
Well, I saw where we had some other news articles that were talking about Tesla may recall some of those people back really quickly.
Yeah.
Who knows what's really going on there? I guess only time will tell.
Yeah, he seems to have this philosophy of let's kill them all and let God sort it out. Philosophy. We'll see. We get rid of everybody, and in the process we get rid of all the dead wood and the chaff, and then we'll bring back the ones that we really want. So
I think that was a Patton quote.
I think it actually comes out of the Middle Ages and
okay.
Not the Reformation, before the Reformation, the Catholic purges and things. So yeah.
All right. So our friend over at EV Auto, Alex Lawrence, posted something on LinkedIn today I thought I'd share. And this is maintenance. This is 5 and 10-year maintenance costs by brand of automobiles. And the cheapest 5 year is $580. It's Tesla. And for 10-year maintenance and repair costs by brand is $3,455, also Tesla. And what's interesting is if you go down the line, they pretty much, if they were cheaper at 5, they were also cheaper at 10 than the next one down. But Buick was second. Now, I have some theories about why Buick was second. And a lot of this is if you drive a car patiently and you're not hot rodding it, things like that, cars tend to last forever.
Oh, you're talking about the customer base for
I'm talking about the customers.
Yeah.
I think the Buick customers, because if you actually start going down this list, it's kind of surprising. Okay. So it's no surprise that Toyota was considered to be pretty cheap, but they came in third. But the next surprising one was Lincoln. So you have Buick and Lincoln, which both tend to be driven by much older average drivers than the other brands.
Boomers,
and these cars tend to be great to buy used because they've been lightly driven.
Right. What was that? Something years ago about the car Pasadena, something like that, about the little old lady from Pasadena who that's the car you want.
Only drove to church on Sundays.
Only drove to church on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to see this. Now, this does not include depreciation. This is not total cost of ownership. This is maintenance and repair cost by brand. And if we switch it to total cost of ownership, it would be, with depreciation, not counting fuel cost. If you only added depreciation, Toyota would win. If you added then fuel cost, Tesla would be back in first place again. So, it kind of all varies, but it's interesting to see that Lincoln was fourth, then Ford, then Chevy. They were cheaper than Hyundai and Nissan and Mazda and Honda, of all people.
Yeah, now, where does Mercedes and BMW and Audi and all that crew fall in there?
Well, apparently not as good, but this was just the top 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I thought this was...
They didn't make the top 10?
No, go figure.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, your Mercedes 10-year might be higher than the cost of some of these others just to purchase initially.
Yeah.
Well, and we have a comment. Tesla would be last if you counted depreciation. Well, that's true. That's true because they really have depreciated a lot. But a lot of it was you also had a really big year for Tesla, or a couple of years when car prices really skyrocketed, and then Tesla's made some major drawbacks on price, and they're still able to make money on the cars. So I think that's pretty incredible that they can do that. But yes, that is a definite issue with that. But like I was saying, on the other flip side, then you've also got fuel cost savings, things like that. One other thing too with depreciation on the cars, I think that you see that $7,500 tax credit being a big factor, because I did something about what cars depreciate the fastest, and 5 of the top 10 were EVs. But if you took the tax credit out of it, they wouldn't have made the list. And so that was kind of because the $7,500 was typically half or more, or it was somewhere around half of that depreciation number, and was putting them more in the realm of a not so poorly depreciating vehicle.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, you would think that $4,000 tax credit for buying a used EV would be skyrocketing the prices of them. I saw one thing, we covered some cars yesterday on the best and worst selling new and used cars. And there was one that was really surprising. The Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid, the average used price for that minivan is $44,000. I was like, oh, if you could get one of these Chrysler Pacificas and get the $4,000. Oh no, that's
That's still
$20,000
40,000.
more.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, how much are those going for new? I mean, I thought that was nuts how much that
Well, that should bode well for, somebody like Canoe, I would think. There's a sort of minivan like EV, and interesting.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
All right. My next topic is, Kia is not a huge player, but they've done a really good job of making nice looking EVs. This is I think the EV9 in the picture. Yep. It's a nice looking large EV.
We had one here for the Omaha Earth Day, surprisingly.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So for April, Kia sold 5,000 EVs. It was a new record. I don't know if that's just a record for April, but they were down in overall sales, but they were up in EVs. They doubled its all-electric car sales, reaching a record volume and share. Let me see. They had 22,000 EV6s, 1,500 EV9s, and about 1,400 Kia Niros. And something called the eGMP family, 3,600. Oh, that was the ones without the Niro. The ones with the Niro, approximately 5,000, and an 8% share of their sales. And I just wanted to cover that briefly because it was, kind of nice to see some of their companies. When you combine Kia with Hyundai and Genesis, they are arguably sometimes number two, sometimes Ford is number two.
They're a significant player. They are, yeah.
Let's see. And I had something funny I wanted to cover, but we're getting through these pretty fast. I wanted to cover this article. Michigan has a sodium ion battery plant going in.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't exciting to everybody, but this is definitely an opportunity for this company called Natron Energy. It's unveiling when it builds the first full-scale Natron full-scale plant in the U.S. for making sodium ion batteries. Now, the sodium ion, they don't catch on fire. They're cheaper to make. They don't require any really scarce minerals the same way. They don't require cobalt, don't require lithium. So it's a different situation.
And it has that cost advantage. It has the advantage. Its energy acceptance and delivery is a different profile from lithium ion that we're familiar with. So I would see these batteries really playing a role more in the energy storage side of things, because the energy you get out of them, it takes a little longer they're faster, I should say. They're faster than lithium. So you're not going to get the same range that you would out of them, but you don't need that if you're running a battery peaking plant. You just need that energy to be there, when you need it. So I think the market for these, and from the profile of the prototype battery packs I looked at, that looks like that's what their destination market. They're not designing those specifically to go in and skateboard on an EV. Looks like they're being designed for energy storage more.
Yeah. For some uses, such as high-capacity batteries to back up solar power plants or support the electric grid, physical size doesn't matter much. All right. So Bloomberg predicts that sodium-ion batteries will make up 12% of the market for stationary energy storage by 2030.
Yep.
So I think I thought that was a pretty good article to
it's based, apparently they're building that in Holland, Michigan, over on the Michigan shore. And what's interesting is that there is I'm trying to think who that was. There is a company, lithium ion battery company, that had a facility and still, I think it's LG Chem maybe, has a facility there in Holland. So they may be trying to tap into some of that workforce that is there and has been trained already. So
let's see what we got here. Oh, here was an article that I guess I already covered about Tesla rehiring its workers. This is something. So this article is coming from Vox. Vox, I got to take them with a grain of salt. But so this is on why are cars in the U.S. so big? And dangerous polluting SUVs and pickups took over America. Lawmakers partly to blame. And you want to talk about this for a second, Bill?
Yeah, you want to take care of your dog. So that's fine. Yeah, I posted this one because obviously when you look around, you see that we have gone from sedans from 15, 20 years ago that there's basically nobody in the in the North American OEM market that's making sedans anymore. Maybe apart from Tesla and the Corolla and the Camry. Ford doesn't make them anymore. General Motors, I don't think they make any more. They're all in the crossover and the SUV and the pickup market, which is where the profits are. So that makes sense to do that. But of course, with that, you keep getting bigger and bigger vehicles. This particular article, if I remember correctly, focused on the fact that the rules for mileage and efficiency and emissions are different from that of the smaller sedans. So they're more lenient. So obviously it made sense for the auto manufacturers to focus their design, development, and sales on that particular segment because they don't have to meet the tighter standards that would be applied to the sedans. And so that may in part account for why we saw that transition through the last decade from people driving, their passenger sedan to everybody riding around and now in an SUV and a pickup truck. So,
well, one of the big problems is that family sizes have declined while the vehicles have gotten bigger. So it's hard to argue that people need, just based on statistics, right, that they need such large.
Speaking of pickups, sure. I'll make a comment. As you may know, we had some severe storms come through Nebraska last Friday, and did an awful lot of damage, and something like 150 people lost their homes, and a lot more than that were damaged. We got some hail here, and we, apparently from the adjuster that came around, looks like we've got some damage up there. Interestingly, the roofing company that came by and wants to do the job, the owner of that company has a Ford F-150 Lightning. And his comment to me was, with this, I'm never going back. And so he said, you want to drive it? Because I haven't had a chance to drive a Lightning yet. And he said, yeah, well, sure, I'll go out. So we went over here to the nearby road and stomped on the accelerator. And oh my God. Does that, I mean, it did. I thought my little Fiat was fast, quick. This thing slammed me back in the seat with acceleration. This is a big, full cab, four-door, pickup truck. And it goes like, I'm going to use it and hopefully we don't get censored. It goes like a bat out of hell. It's unbelievable. So anyway, I've had my chance to drive an F-150. So if you're gonna go to pickup, take a look at the F-150 Lightning if you can afford it. So
yeah, it's pretty astounding, and that guy probably doesn't tow, but you never know. I mean, towing is obviously one of the big things.
He's for his business, he's got gas cars for. Because they have to, not only they do their business located here, but if there's a storm down in Kansas or South Dakota or out in western Nebraska, they obviously have to jump out there and, try to get the bid on those business. So yeah, he doesn't use it for towing, but he does use it for all of his driving around town and to go visit family. Although he did tell me it's a bit dicey going to visit the farm. I don't remember. He told me, but I don't remember where it was, But when I got in the car and I looked at the car, it had 293 miles of range. on it. He's got
Oh,
the big
nice.
he's got the big battery pack in it. Yeah, charges. He has a charger doing level 2 charging at work, and that's where he powers up. But that was fun. So Sean, if you're listening, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, that's I think they're ideal for contractors, and but other than the one situation, but how many people are towing, more than 80 miles a day?
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, it's still
Yeah,
that.
guys doing leaf trimming and guys hauling, cement mixers around and
Yeah, it's a
stuff
little
like that.
different.
Yeah, but most of those, they're not. Most of these people are not guys that are towing, hauling cars around the country, where they
Right.
have to have something long range. Most of them are all just, local guys, moving yard waste and moving their mowers, around, to the yards they've contracted with. And in that case, should work fine.
So my next topic comes from writers about Lucid, and it's Lucid tumbles and dour forecast as Tesla's price war takes a toll. And I don't know how much Tesla and Lucid customers cross over. Okay, because they both kind of target a different. Lucid is much more exclusive than a Tesla.
Yes, I would regard it as the new electric Rolls Royce, maybe. Because Rolls Royce is still working on their version. But I think they've got the model. They were drag racing it against the Tesla Plaid, and it smokes the Plaid. But then it's a $250,000 car with more than 1,300 horsepower, right?
Oh wow!
So
how much faster can you get?
Well, I suppose you could equip it with jet engines or something. But yeah, so I think you're right. I think they're appealing to a different clientele who want to have something that just nobody else has, and it smokes the nearest competition. So,
yeah.
But the interesting thing is that I always get when I post these stories about investment and should you invest in this company or not and so on, is the disparity of views, where the one guy say, man, get out of it now while you're getting good, and the other guy a few stories down is saying, oh no, this really has great growth potential and I'd really take a serious look at it, because it's at its lowest price right now. And I don't.
From our Friday show, Adib says that anything between $2 and $3 on Lucid is a worthwhile time to buy into it.
Yeah.
And they sit around 250 right now. And the company expects to produce 10 to 14,000 luxury electric vehicles this year. Analysts were hoping for 22,000. That's a big difference. But aggressive price cuts by Tesla and Ford have made it harder for companies like Rivian and Lucid to gain market share. But I don't know. When I was last in Arizona, I saw a couple of, the Lucid Airs with the stainless steel body or whatever, the highly reflective silver look. They look nice, but you just don't see them that often. But Bank of America Global Research downgraded Lucid to neutral from buy, saying it could take until 2027 the company to break even. In January, the prices went up on it a bit because there was speculation they might get bought out by the Saudi royals because they already own 60% of the company. I think that's the worst case scenario. You buy the stock and then the Saudis take it private.
And they did, but they just announced there is a deal that was just done, and I can't recall. I'd have to go back and look it up, but there was some deal that was done with a company in Saudi Arabia, which supposedly improves their potential for profitability, at least in that part of the world.
Yeah, and somebody else, this analyst, he's reporting that he thinks that it'll bump back up to $2.90. Adib thinks it might pop back up to $5 here in the next few months. So I mean, it's likely that it's at its floor.
So you're telling me get rid of my canoe and buy Lucid?
Yeah, he says you shouldn't be holding canoe. It's just not worthwhile. I keep kind of hoping though that something positive will come out of canoe, like somebody will gobble it up. Who knows? My last thing I was going to share, and I'm not even sure how good of a chart this is. But easy enough, it's called chart. So that is the name of the file. It's simply called chart. But how EV prices stack up against Tesla's. So, it's showing here the Fisker Ocean ranging from 37 to, up here 65-ish versus a Tesla Model 3, and a Tesla Model Y. But some of these prices aren't real good either, because you can actually get a little cheaper on the Y. You can get over here, get it under 50,000 now, some models. But it does talk about the R1T, the R1S. I mean, the R1T is a competitor to the Cybertruck, but they don't even show the Cybertruck on here. But then you look here, the really big one is Lucid Air, going up here. It's like, hey, we ran out of monitor space. Yeah, it just looks like we ran out of space on the page over here. Yeah, well, it goes up so high.
The one on the far right of the chart there, I think that's the one that was racing the Plaid.
I'm sure it was. But even here in the Model X, it says 109,990. But you can buy a Model X, a base model, for under 80,000, because I know you can get the $7,500 tax credit on it. So some of that's a little off.
That includes the tax credit.
No. That it has to be below 80 to get the tax credit.
To get it, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so I know that you can get some that are down lower than that, but so I'm not even real sure where some of this came from. But I found this on one of our news sites today, and I just thought, well, it'd be kind of interesting to share. And then my last little piece I had is kind of different. Let's see if it'll play. It was breaking news on ABC, but they're not going to show it. I was going to show there was a giant tub of cheese balls, and a guy in an orange mask managed to eat the whole thing of cheese balls in front of a crowd of about 1,000 people. Apparently he's a 22-year-old, and that was really quite impressive. So anyways, it wasn't really applicable to EVs, but I found it as I was going through the articles. Somehow it ranked right up there with the news.
On a happy note.
Yeah, he was. I will say he was successful in consuming all the cheese balls, but that's about it. But that's all I've got for today, Bill.
Whether he kept them down, that's another story.
Yeah, we don't want to know how that ended up. Hours later, right?
Hey,
anyways,
thanks everybody for listening to us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks folks for watching, and we'll be back. I'll be back with Adib tomorrow, and otherwise be back with Bill next week. Have a great day, folks.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.